with people. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's pretty obvious now, even doing what I do. And I'm probably on the client end of the session during these shows, but you can pick up on it. It's seamless. Everything happens in the perfect sequence. The shows yesterday were very good, and then it's my computer's set up on New York City time. So when I get on the 6 o'clock show yesterday, I'm 22 minutes into it, and it's 12:22 on my computer, and the thunder booms were going off from the guest. He was in Singapore, very connected, and it was just like I could feel it was very distinct. And then after the show, spent some time with Morgan and some friends, and it was very powerful, multi-dimensional kind of thing. So, and today it's picked up right where it left off. So
perfect.
36912 day. So we're live on Facebook. We've got 10 people in the Zoom room. Let me pull up the show on my phone so I can look at the comments, and then we'll roll the show out. Exciting show. It's been a long time coming. I've been pursuing TL on this for 6 or 8 months. And I know Morgan's been pursuing it too. So
well, it's actually interesting. You tell me whenever we're ready. I'll just give you a little background of how all of this came about. So,
well, you can go ahead and do that. Go ahead and do that now, and then we'll roll it out in a second. Keep going.
Okay. Yeah. So yes, TL told me a while ago, several months ago actually, that you need to get on Todd's show and so forth. And I said, okay, well, let me take a look and see what's going on. So I watched some of your earlier shows, and I thought, okay, yeah, it looks intriguing, but I'm still feeling not yet. So she goes, why not? I said, I don't know, just not yet, right? And I'll let you know. And so a little while longer went by, and she reminded me again, and I said, yeah, I'll let you know. And interesting enough, one of your shows with Susan Marie, TL sent me a link and said, well, what do you think of this? Listen to it and so forth, right? And so I listened to it, and there was a lot of similarities in a sense of some of the things that she was saying, not really so much the same, but her personal experience. And so we connected, Susan and myself, and we had an in-person, because she only lives about 2.5 hours away from my place. So we met partial way, and we chatted, and she brought you up again. She says, well, you should get on Todd's show. You got all this information and so forth. I said, okay, all right, then I'll have to go ahead and proceed. But I think she contacted, either she contacted yourself or I forgot your wife's Morgan, sorry. Morgan. And before you know, and then when we connected on Facebook, we realized that we are actually Facebook friends since 2013.
Yeah.
With Morgan. And I thought, oh, all right, I know her and so forth, because I had sent her a bunch of links years ago. And we never really stayed in contact. We just kind of were friends on Facebook, and that's about it. But so here we are.
So here we are. Yeah, we got 34 people in the house and counting. If these shows resonate with you, please share so we can stay above the algorithms of Facebook. I'm going to say hello to TL Guadalupe, my sister, my beloved sister, our beloved sister, incredible. I can't wait for the day when she comes on. I've been poking her and prodding her, but I don't know what I'm going to have to do. Denise Phillips, Maria Iverson, thank you for the contribution, Maria. I appreciate that, just received. Deborah Nova, Doreen Kinney, thank you for your repeated contributions. Pauline Kudajar, Stephen Michael Jones, thank you, and thank you both. Linda Winger, thank you. Susan Curtis, thank you. Tracy Lee and Renee Ariel. And good to see everybody. Hello, Louise Frieden from Germany. So we have a special guest today. Let me just pull up a little bio because it's very interesting what I was reading. Let me just pull this up real quick. Let's see. Okay. Sorry about that. All right. So Soul Speaks 5D. Today our guest is Franco DeNicola. For the past 3 decades, he has shared his unique insights on the complexities of the human experience to individuals and audiences around the world. Franco's perception of humanity and the world greatly diverges from conventional ways of thinking, so we'll get along just fine.
Yeah.
Rather than abiding by traditional belief systems and mindsets, he sees beyond the conceptual creation and therefore recognizes that there is more to us than what our current human experience has led us to believe. Franco knew from a very young age his soul's purpose is to bring clarity and a deeper understanding of the human operating system and our true purpose. Franco's down-to-earth and genuine approach reaches people at a soul level, triggering and igniting a recognition of their own divinity, opening them up to a higher level of consciousness and personal freedom. Franco's message embraces our intrinsic nature of love and oneness, as every individual plays an integral part in changing the whole. Got website information, event information. We'll get him to cover that as we conclude the show in an hour or so. And let me just say on behalf of everybody, thank you, T.L. Guadalupe. Thank you, Morgan Lee. And thank you, Franco, for honoring us with your presence and sharing space with us today. Welcome to Soul Speaks 5D.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure to make this connection and to be able to connect with your audience, but specifically yourself. And you've done amazing work over the years, or since you've been online. You haven't been on that long, but you've been really progressive and had many shows. So I am impressed with the reach that you've provided for people, and also the tools and the different speakers and so forth. So it's an exciting moment for me to be on your show, and I looked forward to it.
Well, we appreciate that's certainly far more than me involved here. Morgan is the producer. We've got other people that support us, and obviously this whole thing is made up of the energy of the people that participate. So it's exciting. It's an exciting time. I love my job. It's the best job in the universe. I get to meet incredible people like yourself, and it's mutual. And thank you for the incredible service you've done over the years. Many of the folks I talked to on this show, 1,000+ episodes now, have been feminine, divine feminine, with the characteristic of working in the background without any notoriety, all alone in solitude, working the grid, working out of their room, living with relatives, or being deemed crazy, and so every now and then we come across a divine masculine, a masculine rising, who's been doing it for a long time. So we're all real interested to hear how that happened. So you said from a very young age you knew that you were here to shed light on the path.
Yes, actually, I won't go into the deepest of details, not to make the whole show around that, but in essence, I arrived on the planet. When I say arrived, let me just backtrack it again. As you're familiar with souls, you have a twin soul, a duplicate, signature soul, and so forth. In where my soul was coming from, those unifications already had occurred. So the two halves, or they weren't really two halves, two identicals that had different life streams, chains and chains of life streams. And the life streams of souls are not locked into what we would call like planet Earth. It would be quite open. At times it would be in non-form, other times it would take on form. It would be on different planets, sometimes in different galaxies and universes and so forth, depending on, but in general, they stayed within the same universe and so forth. So the soul itself basically had already united with its other duplicate, and it was working on a whole different universe at the time. But it was very connected to this universe because it actually was involved with a team of designers at the time and programmers when planet Earth was retooled. So in essence, when the request came, now I'm not talking about Franco, I'm talking about the soul itself, because I was made aware of all of that when my soul communicated that, but I didn't know that as Franco at the time.
Right.
So when the request came from the soul to actually come back onto planet Earth and actually reactivate all the codes that were originally designed, and I will go through those details shortly, it agreed to do so. Now, to come on planet Earth, it was coming from a completely different universe. It had to actually have a body that had to be slightly modified to be able to hold that particular energy that was coming in. So couple of extra DNA strands were plugged in. It was encoded and wired a little bit different and so forth. But in general, it didn't make it that much of a difference. And it was very careful in selecting the human entity that would be able to host it. So when I arrived, when the soul arrived and I was in the physicality, to prepare the stage, and I have memory of this for a very long time, is that I remember being in my mother's womb, and I had a twin brother with me at the time. And my twin brother was actually the host that was holding a certain energy, so it wasn't so uncomfortable to be in my mother's womb because of her state of consciousness and also what was happening in the family dynamics.
Right.
So I remember the two of us being in there. Now, when I say the two of us, there was the human consciousness that was coming in, or what we call the human entity. There was also the physicality as it was being held in and going through that process, but also the souls coming in and out all the time to facilitate. And so when the time came for birth, or just 2 weeks before birth, my brother at that point in time said, okay, our journey is over. I have to go. And this is it's your direction. You're the one that's assigned to this. I just came here to keep you company or hold the space for you until it was done. So I remember feeling a sadness from the human perspective, going, what do you mean you're going? You're leaving me here by myself? It's like, I can sense the energies out there already, and I'm still in the womb here, and you're going to expect me to do this by myself, right? And he said, no, I'm not here to interfere with that, and so forth. So he checked out. So when the birthing process happened, my mother went into a coma. They delivered us. Of course, I came out and I was alive. Then my brother was stillborn. Now, they knew that they were going to have 2 boys. They already had picked 2 names. I ended up with both names afterwards. But regardless of that, the stage was set. And then when I was here, the soul spent very little amount of time in the body for the first year, almost a year. And so we just come in and out and come in and out. But I remember afterwards, I started walking early. I started talking early. I started to feel, and I started to look around. And somehow I could see like 2 different channels. I could see what everybody else was seeing, and I could see what I was seeing, which nobody else seemed to see, which were 2 levels of worlds. And in a way, when I was looking at the other world, I'm going, why do I see all this stuff? And everybody says they don't see anything. So I could see the layers of what you can call parallel worlds, but at the same time, you could also see all the activity that was going on that others wouldn't be able to see. But as I got a little older, around age 2, I became more and more aware, looking around, and I'm going, wow. And I had this memory inside that came from inside saying, this is what I'm here to do. I'm here to hold a certain energy. I come here to share a certain level of consciousness and to reactivate the original codes. And I'm going, wait a minute. I'm looking around and all I see is walking zombies, creating more zombies. And not to be disrespectful, but that's what it seemed like, right? And it's like, wow, these people are not ready. Like everybody is still so much in the physical form. Everything works backwards and they're not really aware of what's going on. Why am I here so early? That's what it felt like. It's just like, and I would sit on the sidewalk of the street and looking around, everybody moving around and doing, because I was right in the city. And I was just amazed. And I was going, okay, I don't know how this is all going to play out. But my guide kept showing up. Then that was my only connection, because there was nobody you could talk to. You have to understand, my mother was very religious and very closed-minded. My father was kind of, I used to call him the caveman, because he was very basic and, the fight survival mode, masculine, I had no connection, no feelings, no whatever it is. It was just his thing. So I go, there's nobody I can talk to. I couldn't meet anybody that I could have a discussion with. So my guide kept showing up and was able to used to communicate, which happened to be Yeshua. And he says, well, listen, you're here to do, the next phase of what I came here to do. He says, I came here to activate love and to expand the consciousness. You're here to activate oneness. I said, okay, how am I supposed to do that? And then he goes to me, well, 2000 years ago, it was even worse than here. So you're already in an advantage. I go, yes, I realize that. But at the same time, it was a challenge. But so with all of that taking place, I felt that, okay, well, I can't really do much and I can only share bits and pieces. Then I was assigned sort of doing back-end work. So I was going into the operating system and slowly tweaking things. And this is as I was a kid. And also I started to communicate with certain people, but just because I could hear people's thoughts, I can see their operating system. So I was able to help them go through some of the challenges they were going through. And I remember I was still a kid, so I can only say so much. And I know my mother specifically was spooked because she thought that, how could you know this? How could you say these things? Because in her belief system and her programming, very religious, was that, you're probably being taken over by, some evil entity of some sort. Well, they didn't call it entity. It was the devil or whatever they called it, right? Yeah. At the time, because you can't do this. And the thing is, I had an energy where if I touched somebody, they would feel relief. And it was scary for them. So you can imagine how carefully I had to dance on things just to get through it. So as a kid, I had to learn how to navigate without saying too much and still being of some of assistance. However, shortly after I was age of 4, my guide showed up again and said, listen, this is going to take a bit of time. And what we have to do is that you have to have the human experience so you can understand the human experience. You cannot have a good human experience the way you are right now because you see too much, you know too much, and it's very uncomfortable. And I said, yeah, I realize this. So he said, what we're going to do is that we're going to actually limit your access by 80% of who you are so that you can have more of a human experience. And I said, okay, do I have enough that I could actually function and not get lost in all of this? And he had said, yes, you can, because the part that we're going to leave you is going to keep you as a background of information to be able to have that grounding. And plus, I will show up time to time to kind of give you an update on what's going on. So at age 4, I think it was close to 4.5, I remember going through a process. I went to sleep and I felt that something was going to change. And that's when I came out of it. I realized the same level of capacity to see had reduced drastically. And I was like, whoa, okay. And now I almost like, how do I navigate? How do I figure this out? Right? And I go, okay, now, and I started to feel emotions a little bit more, because that was one of the things. I didn't feel fear, emotions, or anything of that nature prior. And then I started to feel a little bit of it. However, I also realized at the time, as I was going through this, the only way I can understand humanity as I was being told is I have to have some more of the human experience. And that's when I started having more of the human experience. So I was able to actually take on certain roles, which I couldn't do before. And when I say roles, more human-based roles, be able to be more playful in the sense, okay, I'm in a physical body. I started to recognize the physical body, because before, the physical body for me, Todd, felt like it was an anchor, a weight, and it had to be taken care of. It's like, what? This is like too much. It's like, what are we going to do with this, right? This is prior to that. And I didn't have the appreciation, because being that I was so much in non-form before, and the fact that I kind of lived in both worlds, the body was really a drag in a sense. It was like too much maintenance. That's what I used to call it, this sort of thing. It's just heavy maintenance, It's like too many things to do with it. But once that other part came out, then I started to have a different appreciation of the physicality. And I started to realize, okay, well, all right, I can feel things, I can taste things. And I started to put more appreciation to that. And in fact, the sensorial part started to become a teacher for me in a way, because as I started to feel that, I related better what people were saying time to time when they were, going through their experience, and they were saying, well, this is what I'm feeling. And I can tune into it, and I had a resonance of it. I go, oh, okay, yeah. And then I would look at the program around that and so forth. So that's kind of how I went through school and everything else. And even with life in school, I never really got into groups of friendships or anything of that nature. I was always working with the underdogs. So if there were a bunch of kids that were not accepted by the school system or the kids in the school, I'd make them friends, just so that I was a support for them, because I didn't want to be part of any of the other stuff. But at the same time, I also observed and learned, and it went on. So as things progressed further along, at one point in time, I was at age 32 at the time. My guide shows up, and well, there was many times in between, but I'm just kind of skipping through. At age 32, he said to me, okay, we need to fast track understanding the human experience for you. So I said, okay, what does that mean? He says, well, I want you to embody people. And what I mean by that is for you to connect with them and actually download all their experiences. I said, okay, how does that work? So he said, don't worry, we'll set it up for you. And what you're going to do is that you're going to connect with various people, and you're going to feel like you're stepping into their body for a short period of time. And you're going to integrate, take in all of their experience, what they feel, how they think, how they're functioning and so forth, and also their life stream experience, right? Well, this process went on for 10 years, Todd, and it was over 1,000 people. And 1,000 people in 10 years, and they were male, female, different cultures, different upbringing, different ages, and so forth, to create sort of a background of all the different people or segments of people in their experience. And it took 10 years, and I could see why, because each time there was a lot of processing of integration to kind of accept that. So after the 10-year program process, it was, okay, you're done with that. Now you can continue having your human experience. And I noticed that I was getting more and more of the memories coming back of where I was from, what was going on, what I came here to do, even more. And then I started to have the more sensorial, seeing the different layers. And that's when I started doing back-end work again, even further. And then in 2001, the veils, the 80% started to come off. So in essence, I started having more and more and more and more access to it. So I'm pretty well at 100% now, back to how I arrived in the sense of access. Now, so that's kind of been my life stream in that regards. I started to do sessions with people and assisting people about 35 years ago now. It was in 1984. And then since then, and then of course I started doing small group gatherings, and I started doing some other teachings, but I played with anything and everything because I kind of knew how the operating systems were and so forth. I also talked about UFOs because in essence, I had a lot of interactions with them along the way over the years. And I did piss off a bunch of them too at the same time because they didn't like me being here. I remember, I won't even go to those parts of the story because it's not necessary at this point. But in essence, they some of the control structures knew of me, and they kept showing up and threatening or doing certain things that were trying to dissuade me from being here. They wanted me to leave the planet because they kept saying to me, "It's my playground. This is not yours." And we are dominating and so forth, right? But anyways, eventually, they started making different proposals, and they started coming in, and what you can call the Men in Black too, then started coming in, and they were saying, okay, well, we know how powerful you are, what you have access to and so forth. Why don't you become one of us, and we can give you carte blanche, anything and everything. You can be billionaire. You can do all of this stuff. And I said, well, listen, that doesn't appeal to me. I have no interest in that. I came here to do what I came here to do. And so if you think I am that powerful, then you know that I can interfere with your operating system. So I suggest you don't show up anymore. And eventually they got it and they stopped showing up. So I haven't seen them for years now. But yeah, so kind of that was the journey of that. So what I share goes beyond the belief systems, goes beyond programs, and I kind of understand how we actually redesign. So to look at planet Earth, so just to give you a little hint on this, planet Earth has been around for a very long time, but it's only an energetic field because everything is created from that source essence, and it gets retooled every so often. Okay, and when I say retooled, basically the planet itself has a new programming put in and then a new seeding in the program. So nature changes, the animal kingdom changes, and so forth. It sets the stage for new life forms to come to experience itself. A lot of what you call sentient beings and also different interactions. So our current physicalities that we're in right now, that all of us are in that are here, that was redesigned and was reseeded about 15,000 years ago. It was after Atlantis, then there was a break period, and then it was actually retooled again. So it was all completely reprogrammed. A new matrix was put in place, and then the human physicalities were created in a lab sort of thing, just to put it in simplistic words that people understand, and then reseeded on planet Earth. And so for the first 5,000 years out of that 15,000 years, we had the original newly high-level designed matrix. And the matrix exists on every single planet. There is no planet that does not have a matrix, because the matrix is the basic operating, it's the fundamental operating system so that we are able to experience everything the same, okay? But the beauty of matrices is that all the matrices are connected with other matrices from other planets. So we're connected through all the matrices within our solar system, but we're also connected to all the solar systems and the matrices of the different planets in the galaxy. And there's many, and we're one of the hubs of one of the quadrants. So there's like 400 planets within that quadrant of that galaxy that we are most intimately connected with. And what the matrix does is upgrades the software so that whatever is learned and experienced on different realms are actually shared onto ours, and so forth. However, there was a change that happened about 10,000 years ago. And at that point in time, 10,000 years ago, a couple of races got together, which there were hybrid races, had come in and said, okay, listen, we want to kind of take over planet Earth, and we want to create an alternate version of planet Earth. And we wanted to create a way that it actually makes it even much more difficult, because the original design, and I can go through all of that. Hopefully I'm not losing people. I don't, if we have to.
You're good. Just keep going. You're good.
Okay. So in essence, they came in and offered the souls that were on the planet and the human entities that were on the planet, offered this opportunity to create a more intensified video game sort of experience, because that's what each planet is and what we are. We're just in a very elaborate computer game, really, in a sense. Very elaborate computer, of course. So in essence, it was, okay, we're going to make modification to the physicality, the operating system, and we're going to put in a different matrix. So just to set the stage, when we were redesigned back 15,000 years ago, our bodies functioned very differently. It looked very much the same, but it did not have the capacity to go into malfunction. The body was so innately programmed that it actually would not, first of all, the aging process did not accelerate the way it is right now. In fact, the bodies were designed to at least do 1,000 years.
Yeah.
Okay. We did not need to eat food whatsoever. Our energy just came from our environment, mainly the sun, the air, just the exposure, and so forth. There was no food chain. Even the animal kingdoms did not eat each other. The there was a harmony and balance. In a sense, there was that oneness. And when I say oneness, the oneness of realizing that we're all in the game together, and that we are here to support one another. Because there's a lot of different ideas of what oneness is all about. Because true oneness, if I explain it to you afterwards, you'll appreciate it, is very different than the oneness we're talking about here. So in essence, the thing about polarity did not exist. The idea of suffering, sacrifice, all of that stuff, even polarity, positive, negative, and female, masculine energy, feminine energy, all that stuff did not exist, because everything was in that oneness, what you call 0 point or whatever it is. It was a complete harmony. It was a holistic experience rather than a fragmented experience that it was later put on. So things were moving on, and the planet was actually tuned. It was a very powerful experience and programming for planet Earth to start off in third dimensional consciousness, and as humanity would evolve, becoming more realized, self-realized, the planet itself would upgrade to fourth, to fifth, to sixth, up to 9. It was programmed to go from third to 9th dimensional consciousness. So the energy of the planet would host all of those levels of consciousness. And what I mean by consciousness, because consciousness is experienced differently on every planet. And we can go into that if we have time. If not, we'll do it another time if we ever get together again. It's up to you. But in essence, the whole idea was to be able to have a planet that would actually self-evolve, because most planets, when they're designed, they have, it's like, I use the analogy in my talks about like a school, okay? So if you build a school with grade 3, you go to grade 3 and you learn how to be in grade 3, you go through the whole experience. When you're ready to go to grade 4, you go on to another planet that's tuned for grade 4, right? And so forth. But planet Earth was, okay, we're going to do something different here, and we're going to actually allow it that the school upgrades along the way. Okay, so in essence, even though it would hold up to 2 dimensions at a time, and sometimes it could stretch it to 3, but in essence, it would continue to evolve. And so that's when that was programmed to do so in regards to, and humanity would be able to be the navigator as a cluster, how to upgrade. The other thing that was also implanted is that we were kind of the hub, because there's 4 hubs in the universe, in the galaxy, and each one is a kind of a portal planet where other beings and other they call it other dimensional beings can come in and out, and it was like a hub. So in essence, to be able to hold all those frequencies and having visitors in and out. So for us, it was very natural to have beings from other planets. No problem. We were very comfortable with it, and it was never an issue. And that was because if you actually tap into some of the older knowledge and the older things that have been shared, or if you even look at the older Akashic records and so forth, that you'll see that there was a lot of in and out visitations and mingling of different races and so forth coming in from other planets on the planet. So that carried on for 5,000 years. And then at the 10,000 year mark, or 10,000 years ago, actually, so 5,000 years later, that's when this other race came in and said, okay, we're going to modify it. We're going to make it more challenging and so forth. And it was offered to humanity in that way. And it was accepted. So what did that entail? They actually installed a different operating system. So they installed what we call the inverted matrix. So now we have the original matrix and we have the inverted matrix. And the inverted matrix makes everything reversed. Okay, the inverted matrix also separates. So that's where the whole thing about separation came in, because now it became the separation of sexes, separation of light and dark, separation of right and wrong, good and bad, and starting to label all of those things and the positive, negative part. So there was a separation. Then with the separation came to the fact that now we're in survival mode. That means that, in fact, you don't work as a unit any longer. Now you are competing with one another. You're also trying to take something or whatever it is from anybody to be able to advance. Okay, so in essence, for you to flourish, you have to be self-serving, directed, and you are no longer a community. So the community aspect started to separate. And then whatever was a lie became the truth, and what was a truth was a lie, you know, and it started to actually take the purpose of that to make it so that we actually would be pushed the other direction. So let me explain that part. With the inverted matrix, the thing that got plugged in was the ego.
Yeah.
The ego's artificial intelligence, and very beautifully skilled, because I've seen it and I've seen what the inverted matrix looks like. Totally skilled, designed to do what? To accentify, or lost the word now. To accentuate, thank you, accentuate separation, but at the same time, it's designed to devolve instead of evolve. So in essence, it does everything possible to get you to disconnect from who you are. Because look at it this way. Our true third dimensional consciousness, our third dimension, true 3D, okay, had a knowing that we are more than the physicality.
Yeah.
And experienced it that way. So it knew it had a higher aspect of itself, and it also was having a human experience. So it knew that, and it actually had the oneness within it. In true 3D, oneness was in there. In the inverted matrix, it took that out. It actually got to the point where you started to push away from that other aspect of you, and it started pushing into the fact that we're just this physicality. You're here. You didn't even choose to come here. You are here because you were sent here, and now you got to see how you can make it through. But when it's done, you're out. There's no more of you, and that's what the program does. So even if you notice the ego, even today, anytime you get insights from within yourself, what does it do? Automatically goes into the mode of saying, what about, are you sure that's higher self? Oh, by the way, you know, what about this?
Yeah.
And it just keeps spewing, because it basically doesn't want you to connect with that, because that's its purpose. It's designed specifically for that. And every time you try to connect with yourself, it actually brings in, sometimes it can bring in physical ailments or physical emotional charges of fear and so forth, because the inverted matrix works on fear. And it keeps you away from the moment either, being present. It just either is the past or projects the future based on the past and whatever it absorbs. So that's, you see how that program operates. So then new categories came in. So we went from, and when I say we, as the main cluster of the collective, went from 3D to what we call inverted 3D. And then pushed it even further to 2D. So what is 2D? Well, 2D is a human physicality that is fully 100% operated by a physical program, or an operating program that has no connection to anything outside of its program and its physical existence. And not only that, they don't even have what you would call individualized souls. So they're almost, in fact, that those physicalities that are running in 2D have one soul that may run up to 1,000 or more physicalities. They're not localized or personalized or having an individual one. It's from a cluster. And the same thing with the human entity. So in essence, so I think Dolores Cannon mentioned it too, one of her things some years ago, that you notice that there are people that are just extras. Okay. That's kind of how it's referred to. If you're talking about it, they're there. They're holding a certain energy. They're actually supporting the inverted matrix and so forth. But in essence, because you have to understand, the soul wants to come and involve. And when it sees that it's devolving, it says, oh, I'm going to unplug, and I'm not going to be physically running this. I'm going to extend myself. And then because there's so little change between the whole cluster of physicalities, it says, well, I can look over 1,000 and I'll keep connection to all of them, but at the same time, I'm not going to be directly navigating any of them particularly, right? So that was kind of what took place. So there's a lot that are working in what we can call the 2D state of mind. They won't could be on this show and they would think absolutely we're nuts to even talk about this. So in essence, we wouldn't have anybody right now that would be.
Yeah, all my family. No,
Well,
I don't mean to say they're 2D. I'm just saying they think I'm nuts. No, I'm kidding.
Well, you know, the thing is, Todd, a lot of times what we're looking at when we're looking at people in 2D, I mean, there's nothing wrong with any level of consciousness because all of it plays a role in one way or another.
Yeah.
But in essence, when you're looking at it and say, well, because there are people that actually will go from 3D to inverted 3D to 2D and then switch back and forth and so forth. And so in essence, when I say switching back and forth, they'll have a glimpse of it. It's like us, you know, we'll have a glimpse of 5D. But we're not there all the time. We're into mostly 3D. Sometimes we get caught into inverted 3D. 2D is going to be next to impossible to achieve at this point when you've gotten to a point of what you call another level of awareness, right? So in essence, you wouldn't be able to get caught up in that state per se. But I realized that when I was young because I was looking around and because I look in people's eyes and I can tell if what's there, right? In a sense, and I'm looking in there and going, wow, there's nobody home here. You know, who's navigating this, right? And you could see it was just software, basically, that was running it. Now, the experience of those physicalities coming into play and so forth, you know, still have a purpose. And because of the inverted matrix that's in place, it does serve, okay? In a sense of saying, okay, well, what's happening? We're shifting, right? And what are we shifting from? You know, because one of the things that people talk about, you know, we're going into 5D, right? You've heard that a lot, and I'm sure a lot of people on your show and other people that have been talking about 5D. Well, the push is not really, when we understand it, the push is not to go into 5D only. It's either you go to 3D, the true, natural, original 3D, or you go to 5D, okay? So in essence, it's bringing obsolescence and unplugging 2D and unplugging 3D and then going to 3D, to true 3D, because even in true 3D, it's a very different world. You know, we think that we're in 3D, but most people, and when I say I'm talking about collective, we think we're stuck in 3D, and 3D is that limited, locked up, emotionally driven, self-directed, and through, you know, our programs, our belief systems, what we're being conditioned and programmed. That is natural 3D. It's not. Actually, that's more inverted 3D and sometimes a glimpse of 2D. Because natural 3D still has a certain level of awareness, which, you know, a lot of the people that are so-called awakening or getting to the next level of awareness, that they're starting to realize there is an actual difference. You know, I feel a stronger connection. I may deviate because of certain programs that are coming through, but in essence, I'm still here. I'm here in the sense, yeah, I chose to be here. I came here to have this experience. I'm coming here with a list of things I want to do and so forth, right? So in essence, that's kind of what's happening. So the shifting that's taking place at this moment is, and a lot of that got completed at the end of last year, where the souls had to decide. The souls had to decide if you're going to go into 3D or you're going to go into 5D, which is basically natural 3D or natural 5D. And the only difference is just the level of consciousness and what you could create with those consciousness. So the higher the dimensions that you go into, the more awareness that you have, okay? But what you create on planet Earth, say you're in fifth dimensional consciousness, what you're creating on planet Earth in 5D will be very different than what you would create on another planet in 5D, because there's a whole different matrix that works there, a different physicality, a different response mechanism, and so forth. It's just really the 5D is just the awareness. And how are you going to use the awareness in the playground that you're in? Because what is a planet? A planet is a playground and a schoolyard. That's basically what it is. Yeah. And we come here to play. We come here to learn. We come here to become more enlightened. Okay. And, you know, as much as people say we're awakening, we are, but we're not really ever awakening fully, because the moment you awaken fully, you're in non-form, because you can't be in form and be awake, because then you become source again. And you're already source, but you're now stepping into source energy, where basically all realities blend into nothing and everything, right?
We've been there and done that. I'm in no hurry to go back. Are you?
No, no, not at all. Actually, the reason it even exists, Todd, all of this, these planes of playgrounds, is because being totally just source and just existing as source isn't all that much fun. And this is why it said, okay, I'm going to take every other pixel of my energy field, and we're going to create opportunities for that version to go out and create and to experiment and to experience and to just create more and more aspects to see what it can possibly do. And by doing so, it actually keeps itself expanding.
Yeah.
This is our true nature. This is why we feel always guided to expand, to learn more, to actually discover more of ourselves, right? Because it's our innate program. It's basically fundamental operating system.
Makes total sense. Totally resonates.
So anyways, that was just to give you a little background.
I love that. I wasn't really, I love to just do these things spontaneously. I had a few messages here that I'm going to just touch on real quick because TL did 3 or 4 of them. I'm certainly not going to pass that up. One of the things she said was, is there ego in the real 3D, and is there ego in 5D?
Okay. All right. No. The ego that we know, which is artificial intelligence that is directly connected with the artificial, or what we call the inverted matrix, basically at this point in time only exists in the inverted 3D and 2D state. In true 3D, you're actually operating on pure consciousness. And when I say consciousness, because our mind has an operating system.
Right.
Okay. So we have an innate consciousness, which takes information from your own human entity and from your own soul and your experiences and processes it and creates an environment of play. The consciousness of 3D and 5D, the natural consciousness, will basically not do things to kind of backstep you. It will actually work with you to explore, to get into ways of understanding and expansion. Okay, where you can see with the inverted matrix and what we call the ego, it's the opposite. Okay, so in the true 3D and 5D, there is no ego as the artificial intelligence that's directly plugged into the inverted matrix. We just work on what we call an overall consciousness, because we have several levels of consciousness. We have a body consciousness, what we can call the innate consciousness, which actually has the complete operating system of how to function in a body, how to make the body respond, act, work, how to restore itself and do whatever it needs to do. We have a consciousness that comes from the human entity. We'll have to explain that at some point. And that is, what is a human entity? A human entity is actually our experience of a human that is also evolving. So we have 2 levels of reincarnation, what we call. One is the soul incarnation, one we have the human entity incarnation. The human entity is bound to play in planet Earth, so it has all of the most advanced capacities of the human experience. The soul has experiences and evolves from different planets, different realms, different everything. So you bring in the 2 mix to that. So you have those 2 levels of consciousness that come into the body consciousness, and then you have the overall consciousness, which is the mind part of it, that actually takes all that information into the right brain, processes it, what we can call the intuition and so forth, and creates a reality which streams it into the left brain, which allows us to create form around us, because everything is just a field of energy, and the only reason we're able to see is because of the matrix that's there and so forth, and then the way that our mind processes. And there's been some researchers and so forth that have gone through the experience where they actually had the experience of their left brain shutting down, and then everything disappears, in a sense where they just see codes all over the place and they can't see form and so forth, because it's the left brain. So you have those levels of consciousness. So those will stay intact, and the overall consciousness, all that gets removed is this, what we call the ego, which is the artificial intelligence that does the reverse part. So it does not exist in the true 3D or in the 5D or any other levels. Now, there are specific planets, because I've been, I won't go there too far today, so I won't even say, but I've been on other planets and I have been interacting with that, and I've seen that they have sometimes overlaying operating systems that allow them to simulate what you would call an ego. But the ego is just an identification, saying, well, I am this male body, I am this or that, whatever it is, and there's an association to that, but it does not have anything that actually relates to anything that we have here that actually pushes us to devolve and actually see everything in reverse, or so that's the difference between the two.
On the real 3D, no, I'm sorry. On the inverted 3D, the ego, it's an AI. It's created to devolve.
Correct.
Okay.
Devolve, create separation, disconnect, and let you go back into being a machine. Basically, you become only a machine in that. Now, if you look at our systems, Todd, all our systems are basically emanated or representation of this inverted matrix. Like you take education. If you look at it and say, well, is that promoting expansion, growth, self-discovery, new advancements, or is it actually tuning you down, putting you into a basic operating system and you can't think out of the box? So it basically does that. The legal system, the medical system, it's not about flourishing or creating holistic anything. Everything actually works in reverse. Legal, you name it. Everything you plug in as a system is all reflective of that inverted matrix where everything works backwards. So instead of having health, we're going to destroy health. Instead of having expansion growth, we're going to actually program you to be an operating system or a robot. Now, a lot of the people that take on the roles to support the inverted are mainly the higher ups and so forth are basically, and some of the lower levels are basically tuned to be 2D. So in essence, they don't question anything.
Right.
You don't bring anything in. They'll follow instructions, even if it makes absolutely no sense.
Like cops.
Yes.
Let me ask you this. Man, thank you for this wealth of information, and absolutely would love to have you back for future collaboration. Absolutely. If it's up to me, I'm saying yes. Been a lot of talk recently on these shows, what I call real-time intel. You know, what are you going through? What does it feel like? What's happening? A sense of something's about to pop. Something is right there around the corner. It's like, you know, there's been a lot of talk over the last 2 years doing the show of something's coming, we're almost there, we're here, but something feels very, very close, and I trust the intuition and the transmissions and information of these brothers and sisters and myself. Is there something very dear, very near to us now, right on the cusp of whatever this is? And if so, what's going on behind the scenes with that? Or do you know?
Yes, I do. Some things I can share, other things I'm not allowed to share, but at this point in time, from what I can share with you right now, this is a pinnacle year, 2019, okay? Because there's a whole new stage being set for 2020, okay? So in essence, what's happening? You're correct. There are some really, really major things that have been shifting and in preparation, because a lot of the wrap-up happened last year and going into this year. This past month, there was some changes with the power, and also the top control structures that were in place were actually unplugged, okay? And that just only happened a few days ago. So in essence, all the minions below it, all the different puppets and whatever you want to call the ones that are playing other roles, are still doing what they're doing, but all the highest level, which a lot of them, some of them were actually beings. They weren't even humanoids, you want to call them. They have been actually unplugged from the input and the control structure that was coming in. So June and July, basically, there are some really major changes because some of the other, it's an opportunity that opens up to relieve some of the 2D role players. So that is to take place. And then when we're talking going into August and in the end of August, going into the middle of September, that's when the two realities of true 3D and 5D actually get, a lot of it has already been prepared, but it actually now it starts to create almost like a separation where you're like the channels are being changed so that the energies are two separate energies. So you start fading into one and fading into the other. And in essence, you see less and less of each other. And then eventually it doesn't exist any longer. So you only have the cluster that wants to be in 5D and so forth. And then the inverted matrix gets unplugged later in the year, close to the end of the year, which will remove a lot of the what we call the ego power. That's the intent. That's what they've been doing. It's been delayed because there was some of that. And then there's always a redesigning that takes place because it's been back onto what I call it, to the bench or back onto the table to look at it. And it's always being offered and saying, okay, if we do it this way, what outcome are we going to have? And there's simulations that occur, right? So they always play with the parallel worlds to do the simulations on and to see if we did this and did that, how would it work, first of all. Second of all, also with the souls that are involved and what the major intent from the two streams of consciousness, which is the human entity and also the stream of consciousness of the souls that want to participate in this playground. If we did this, how would you be okay with this? How can we do it? And so forth. So even the stuff we wanted to do in 2012 actually didn't actually take place until 2017. And then 2017 stuff that was supposed to already have been achieved didn't happen. But in 2018, it prepared it. And now we're actually in 2019, which the year we're in right now, is actually moving in that direction. So what we're feeling close is the fact that a lot of the stuff that's been holding us down is being dissipated. Now, the other thing, if you notice, Todd, and I'm sure you have, and you probably have heard a lot of feedback with it, a lot of people are being, all these pulses of energy that were coming in and the Schumann energy frequencies that are, skyrocketing. We get bursts, not very long, but we get bursts and it shakes up. And then all these new frequencies coming in are pushing people so much to bring up emotions, bring up stories, programs, belief systems, and so forth, that actually keep you either in the 2D or inverted 3D to be purged, okay? So they're coming up to the surface. You'll find that you cannot carry any of your past. You cannot carry any of that energy. So a lot of it is being challenged right now and bringing it up. So some people are feeling, and recently, some of the people I've been working with, this whole thing about wanting to commit suicide or wanting to check out has become very prevalent, because not that they're going to do it in a sense, because it feels so powerfully overwhelming for them that they feel that the only way out is to exit. But in essence, every other part of them is keeping them in, because they're getting to the point where you break it, you break the patterns, you break the automatic defaults, you break through that holding on to, and then you're freed. And then you can actually gently migrate into the frequencies that you're going to go in. Mm. And the other thing too I wanted to mention is that, and this is some of the things I wanted to clarify, because I know I hear it from other people, is that when you enter the 5D or in Nirvana, whatever it is, and all that stuff. Well, one of the things that was made very clear is that once the two segments are crystallized and we're into those, you can still be in 3D, but you're in 5D. But the thing is, now you're going to go through an acceleration process in a very supported manner to let go of all the 3D stuff so that you can actually become 5D. And anyone that's actually chose to go with 3D could still be in 2D or inverted 3D, but we'll go through the process of it. So in fact, it's not like something happens and you're arrived. It's like, we're here. It doesn't work that way. The reason it doesn't work that way, it doesn't allow for self-empowerment, and it doesn't allow us to do the integration period. It does not want to remove any part of the experience because it is not conducive for what we are here to do. Yeah. It's like a kid saying, well, you don't have to learn how to tie your shoes. I'll tie it for you. In fact, I'll put magic laces on you and you'll never have to learn how to tie it, and that's it. But the child is going, no, I want to learn how to tie because I feel better when I can tie it myself. Just a simple analogy there. So in essence, for us to shift, even though we're getting the assistance, for us to be able to shift with ease is very, very powerfully empowering for us. So it's like, oh yeah, great. This is what I wanted to achieve at this point in time. So that's kind of where it's staging. Is it going to be a big flash or things of that nature? A lot of that has been talked about, or this big pulse and so forth. There are different pulses already occurring. Is it going to be to that degree? Nothing is in concrete that it's going to be that. There are different versions of information channeled coming through that would indicate that. Yeah. But nothing has been formalized or finalized in any way for it to be there in that way. But are we going through stuff? Yes, very powerfully.
Yeah.
And this is a very powerful year.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with all of that. And it never has resonated with me, this blink of an eye, pulse or one pulse or whatever, the event, that type of thing. Now, you said 10,000 years ago this occurred. This, what some people might refer to as interference. Mm-hmm. We don't have to get into all the stories. My question is this: both 10,000 years ago and today, with these simulations that are played out, this is a free will realm, or free will game, or whatever you want to plan it. That free will we often think of as literally in our day-to-day interactions and so on, but it's actually more applicable, it sounds like, in that we gave consent 10,000 years ago, that we have a vote, so to speak, with these simulations and which path we take. Is that accurate?
Yes. When it was presented, it's like this. If I came to your house and I said to you, and you'd like to play a particular video game, if you were into video games, and I came to you and I said, listen, Todd, I can tweak the operating system and make it more challenging. In fact, so challenging that when you do get through to finish the game, mm-hmm. You'll be so more skilled, so more powerful. You'll have achieved such accolades of state. And you would say, well, that sounds appealing. Yes, because, this game is fun, but if it was actually more difficult, and that's how it was prepared. Now, the free will part, this is challenged a lot, and I'm glad you brought that up. The free will part, people say, well, we don't have free will. Well, if you're looking at it and say, well, do I have free will to create every part of it? There are several things to look at. One is which level of free will? The free will from the human entity, the free will from the soul, free will from the physicality, free will from the mind concept, or the free will of the ego mind. That's the first part. The second part is, well, I came here and I can't navigate my life because of everything else that's going on and so forth. And this is a game. But before any soul comes onto the planet, it has a complete viewpoint of be able to see every part of it. It says, okay, you're going to come there. You're going to most likely lose a lot of your awareness. You're going to lose the capacity to even feel that you are more than that physicality. You're going to get so lost in it. You're going to be immersed in such emotional controls and programs, and you're going to have all these challenges. Are you willing to go? Okay. And that's the first part. The second part is, now you get the free will to choose what family you're going to go in, what culture you're going to step into, what part of the world you're going to go into, what role you're going to take onto the world when you go there, and what you're going to stage along the way, and who you're going to play with. So all those choices are there, all in advance before you get here. Then when you get here, you forget kind of all of that, in a sense, to really get immersed in the game. But there's still free will in there, because in essence, it's up to you to internalize any part of it. Sometimes people say, well, our circumstances dictate. How many people are in the exact same circumstances and they take the world very differently? Their life stream looks very differently. Yeah. Even as a child, you can have 2 or 3 kids in one family dynamics, and they have the same exposure. Each one goes a different direction. Each one sees the world differently. Each one decides, I'm going to go down that path and get lost in the game, or I'm going to actually push away from the game, and create my own game. So,
and so let me get back to this. So we have I mean, I guess individually, what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of people talking matrix over here and I'm over here and I want to break away, and almost like it's a bad guy or whatever, which I'm not judging. I'm just saying naturally we would feel that way and come to terms. We're going to talk about your definition of oneness later on. But we can accelerate this process on our own behalf by doing inner work, by doing shadow work, by seeing the opportunity that these things that come to the service offer.
yes.
My question is, I've been getting like this, okay, it's all or nothing. You can't leave, you can't hold on to any of this over here, which would include all these inverted 3D ideas. So I just had to get my driver's license and my social mailed to me, and it gave me the creeps. I'm hearing something that's telling me, do not participate in this stuff. Do not recognize these borders. Do not recognize, and of course the humans going, well, wait a minute, what's going to happen? They're going to lock me up and throw away the key. Do you have any advice on how literal does this detachment go?
Okay. That is an excellent question, because that's come up on many occasions. And what I'm going to say is, when we're talking about detachment, we're still in this inverted 3D world, okay? There's the licenses, there's all of that stuff. The thing is, the detachment is the power we give to it, the significance we give to it, and how much it actually controls you. Okay. Because if you're going in fear, if I don't have a driver's license or anything of that nature, I'm going to have an issue or something of that nature, or the fact that, oh, this is my almighty God, because in essence, it tells me I have the right to drive. It's really letting go of all of that. So you'll have it, but you won't even have to use it, because you'll never have to take it out, or if ever at all, once in a while, for whatever reason. Yeah. Sometimes you want to show your mugshot when somebody says, oh, who are you? Here's my mugshot. That's the thing. But it's really attached. When we're detaching from the 3D world, it's not stepping out of the 3D world. It's letting go of the power we've given it to it and the control that it has over us.
Very
okay.
Good.
For example, if we have somebody says rules, because look at it this way, there's laws, right? And we can talk about that another time. But what is laws? Who made it up? Who's supporting it? Who gives it any power? It's really up to us if we want to play with it. Even this free man thing, free man. Well, you're always free. You never were bound. And I don't care what governmental position says, oh, you have a birth certificate, now you're owned by the bank or owned by the state or something of that nature. It's all false. It's not even real. But if we give power to it and we're afraid of it and we have to control it, that's the part. So you look at it and say, well, are you a free man? I go, I always have been. Do I have papers that say that I have, I have a driver's license or I have a birth certificate or anything? Yeah, I got a piece of paper, but it means absolutely nothing. Right? Yeah, sure. To me, it's like, oh, it's your game. You want it? Here, play with it. But to me, it doesn't mean anything, right? So it's really about that. So it's letting go of that. And when we're talking about the stories and the programs and so forth, anything that relates back to right, wrong, good, bad, dark, light, all of that stuff, that's the part you're letting go. It's the power of that separation, the power of that, that it has over you. And the last thing I wanted to say before then you can carry on deciding what you want to do from there, is that when we are talking about the structures that are in place, anything that's existing, all of it has served. There is no right or wrong about anything. Everything is an experience. Everything is an opportunity, as a playground. Yeah. It's like you go to an amusement park. You can't go around walking around and start judging the rides. You could say, well, that ride looks interesting, but I'm not interested. That's fine. This ride looks interesting to me. I'll try that ride. But in essence, you're not going to say that ride is evil and that ride is good based on some perception of some sort. And a lot of it is instilled perception. the thing is, you have to understand, even the control structure and the elites and all of this other stuff they're talking about, they all serve a purpose, and they all have created that stage. So the fact that we need to fight it, if you're going to do a revolt, you're playing in the inverted 3D. That's right. Or 2D. If you're going to say, I'm going to make a movement for higher consciousness, for us to say we choose no longer to participate, that's one thing. But to go into fight mode, you're basically in the inverted matrix, because that's all you want to do.
Yeah, right in the middle of it. Separation.
Yes, exactly.
Now, also a lot of talk, and I love talking to this stuff about you, because you're validating this stuff for me. I struggle with this whole disclosure thing. It's just another program. It's just another. I mean, it's like you said, it's a playground in a school. We get up every day, and we see what comes. That's the way I see it. Instead of getting up every day saying, "Oh my God, when are they going to land?" You know, or what are they withholding, and what technology are they withholding? I mean, I just see it as a distraction, I guess.
In a way it is, and it's a distraction, and the trickery behind that is the moment that we start seeing ourselves as a victim and they're the victimizer, we're basically reinforcing exactly what we want to step out of. Okay, I'm not saying you don't take action, but the thing is, you don't go into fight mode or anything, or see it as wrong. The thing is, it's not about saying this is wrong and we have to get rid of it. You look at it and say, this is obsolete, because we no longer need that polarity game, and we now put it out of obsolescence. We take it out of the equation. You unplug. That's all you're doing.
Yeah, I love that answer, because, and I'm going to be frank about this. I mean, I think we do things for two reasons, and I'm really talking about what people might call the light worker circle, or whatever you want to call that, consciousness or whatever. So one seems to be out of curiosity, like the curiosity, the innocence, childlike wonder, you know, fascination with the subject or so on. Then the other one seems to be here's the big problem, here's the bad guys over here, and here we stand over here, and oh my God, we better do something, because all hell's going to break loose, and Chicken Little said the sky's falling down. You know, I mean, I don't resonate, and I'm not judging, I just don't resonate with the David Wilcox stories and even some of David Icke's stuff. I love the information that they gave me and helped me to wake up, you know, many different people. But it flatlines, doesn't it? It just flatlines. At some point, you're hitting your head, and it's really, you know, Morgan says this all the time. She'll say, sometimes you just got to say, it's not even real. So you go to sleep, and you wake up again, and it was just a dream. And so your thing about being a playground in a school, you know, you just go out and see what's going to happen today. You know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's beautiful.
Yeah, you're designing it. So collectively, we decide at that point in time. This is the thing. I use this a lot for people that have, have emotional charges and so forth. If you hate something and you want to change it because you hate it, you're just going to lock it in and make it even more powerful. And then it's going to be like this all the time. Okay. Yeah. But you look at something and you basically look at what you think is bad in your life or externally in your other playground, and say, wow, I see it. I thank you for creating just a beautiful stage. I love you for what you've done. However, I no longer require you as part of my experience. So I release you. Okay. So in that respect, it's not about I'm fed up with it. I've reached a point where I no longer require it. I love it for what it is. I'm not going to see it as anything wrong, and I let you go. Yeah. And if we do that, all of these systems will actually, keeps us in that, will start to dissolve very easily.
And it would make sense that on an individual level, if you made that choice, or were two or more gathered, that those things aren't going to enter your space. I mean, it would make sense. I'm not saying that's, I think my ego's telling me, watch what you're saying. But no, it would make sense to me, because we are micros of the macro. I mean, we can control that, I guess, for lack of a better word. Now, you were mentioned, and I don't want to keep you too long. We can go another 15 minutes. Is that okay?
No, it's okay with me.
Okay. Yeah.
I just you're the timekeeper. I don't even know what time it is. I forgot to bring my clock in here.
It's been an hour and 14 minutes, but we'll.
Oh, okay.
So now you brought up earlier. You mentioned oneness, and you alluded to an expanded or different meaning or definition than what we hear in this often cliche-ish community. Can you elaborate on what you're talking about in terms of what is oneness?
Okay, so the oneness that I'm referring to, because there's different levels of oneness. Okay, if you go into pure oneness, you'll notice that you basically wake up from the dream, which we're having, and you're now full state of sourceness. Okay, and you see that there's nothing outside of you. Everything is you, no matter what. And I'm not talking about you as a representation of a physicality or mind. You're basically that consciousness that I'm one. That's not what we're going into. And it's not the oneness of feeling that we're all the same. Okay?
Yeah.
The oneness we're talking about is realizing that we are all in it together. This playground is shared. This playground is collaborative. Everything is designed around the collaborative playground. Now, one thing I said to people, when we're talking about oneness, is we're realizing that everyone around us is an aspect of us, playing a very specific role that is very complementary on one way or another for each other. So it's not about self-discovery as just you, it's self-discovery as the whole of you, which is all your playmates and so forth. So when we're accessing that oneness consciousness, you realize that whatever I'm doing for other aspects of myself. So how do I create an environment that nurtures, that is conducive for all my aspects of myself? So you're going to create a playground. For example, look at the world that we are in now. The playground is self-driven. So in essence, everybody's for self. They discount all the other aspects of themselves. That means if I'm going to make a product, and I'm going to make this, I'm not going to look at all other aspects. I'm not going to look at the planet. I'm not going to look at the animal kingdom or life or anybody else. I don't care what toxicity I put in it. I don't care how it is, as long as I can make money, because I have to, with money, I can do something of some sort. So the focal point is I'm going to make something, but I'm not going to look at any of the whole. I'm going to make laws or regulations or guidelines or anything of that nature that actually creates more separation. So the oneness, true oneness, is it takes a big picture and looks at, okay, how do I create an environment that nurtures everyone? You're not carrying anybody. You're not responsible for anybody, but you're also creating an environment that does not take another aspect of you and put you in a situation where it's not flourishing. Yeah. So it becomes a oneness of flourishing as a unit, okay? So the whole planet flourishes. Everybody on the planet, everything, every sentient being on the planet, even the planet itself is one unit. But that unit belongs to the solar system, which now encompasses all the other planets, including the sun, which is a planet too. So in essence, it encompasses all the beings that are in there, and all of those becomes another level of oneness unit. But then that goes into the galaxy and the cluster of the galaxy, and then the universe and so forth. Those are all the different levels. But right now we start to connect with the oneness as, hey, we're all in it together. We're all playing together. We're all aspects of each other. Let's play together. And that's create an environment of flourishing. Yeah. And then you don't have all this stuff of separation, including money and everything else, because of haves and have-nots, and who is supported and who's not, and so forth. You create an environment, everybody has an equality, accessibility. Not everybody's going to play the same, but everybody's supporting each other. So that's kind of the oneness that we're talking about. So when people are saying, well, we're accessing oneness, you access the first level of oneness, which is basically, hey, we're all one. We're all, first part of oneness is you, okay? And what I say, one with the body, one with your soul, one with your human entity, one with your mind, one with your overall consciousness. That's the first part. That's your first level of connection. Then the next level of connection is all the connections outside of you, which is not really outside, it's still part of that whole field,
Right.
but they represent outside of you. And you start connecting with that aspect of it. So the oneness consciousness is to change the playground so that we are community-based with no, separation of one another or pushing one another. So it's really taking the equation of separation, which is an illusionary, and it was never in the original design. You take that out of the equation, and then you start to feel connected with everybody. So you'll notice, because it's funny, because when I connected with beings, when they've come to the planet, they see how beautiful an experience is. But in essence, they see also how destructive, I'm talking about a representation of destructiveness, when you're not seeing that you're all together. So the fact of creating a war, you have to actually see separation. You can't see oneness. In essence, if you look at anyone that goes into war, besides that they're programmed to do so, what do they want? They want peace. They want equality. They want the capacity to enjoy life.
Yeah.
But then the program is conditioned, and the inverted matrix says the only way you can have peace is through war.
Yeah.
The only way you can have peace is that you get all you need and discount everybody else.
Yeah.
But oneness says the opposite. It says, no, you can't have ever peace. Look at it this way, Todd. You can have somebody that's actually wealthy. You can have somebody that has access to anything and everything. When you really ask them, and I've worked with thousands of people in 35 years, okay? So I've met all types of ranges of people, okay? When you ask them, are you in peace? Most of them, I have yet to see one that have ever said to me, yes, I'm in peace. Because I've had people that said, I have everything and I have anything I can want, but I'm not in peace. Why?
Yeah.
Because I still feel what else the rest of the world. I feel what the animal kingdom's going through, and what other humans are going through, and so forth. And I can't experience true peace, even though peace starts within, true 100 peace, because there's all other aspects of every cell that is in another physicality at this point in time is not in peace, right?
Yeah.
So in essence, to have full is you go into oneness and you establish that level of peace throughout. And that is done because it's our natural state. Our natural state is peace. Our natural state is love. Our natural state is oneness. Our natural state is recognizing facets of ourselves. Our natural state is actually harmony, cooperative, collaborative. That's our natural state. Competition is the inverted matrix.
Yeah.
The fact that we need to fight each other, inverted matrix. You see all of that. So that's the oneness I'm talking about. Is a real self-realization. Go ahead.
The inverted matrix wants you to hate it.
Well, absolutely.
It wants you to. It's just a big ego, basically, right?
Yes.
So I want to ask you. It's not a trick question. Just that childlike wonder. I've heard you and a couple other people that have some pretty strong intel. You definitely tell they've got some type of connection on par with you in terms of what you've been made aware of. You said earlier, I can tell you some things, but there's certain things I can't tell you. That sounds to me like, and me no disrespect at all, again, this is just curiosity. That sounds like it's coming from a higher level, I guess. Would that higher level be your own aspects, or is there some type of individualization on the road to total oneness? You're there, I'm here.
No, it's the thing is, like, I've known a lot of information that I even shared today for quite some time.
Yeah.
However, every time I needed to share it, I was told not, because people are not ready for it.
Yeah.
And they may react in a way where they don't understand.
Yeah.
Like some of the stuff we talked about today, if we talked about it 5 years ago,
No.
I mean, I couldn't. There's no way.
No.
A year ago, I couldn't.
You'd be in a straitjacket.
Well, not only that, people would be shocked by it and wouldn't even know how to comprehend it. But the people that are in your show already are open much more to it, and now are more. So some of the things of the actual details, if the details, okay, I'll share this part because this is really good. The thing is, one of the information that was shared is that humanity, if they're waiting for look at what's happening right now. The fact that there's an event occurring, okay? What happens? People go into, oh, I'll wait for the event.
Yeah.
And they don't actually take personal direction to make changes so that they can be part of it. So what happens? They do go into a sleep state. And it's like, oh, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait. How many people have, I'm waiting for the event. I'm waiting for the event before my life gets better. That is not what your highest aspect of yourself wants you to do. It's like, no, you're already in progress. You're already taking this. Don't have this event or whatever that's going to take place be the part that you're going to put you into a sit back and wait.
Yeah.
Right. You have to do the work. And that's why that a lot of things weren't being shared at the time. First of all. Second of all, is that the mind's concept or even their state that they were in could not accept it. And then they were shut down. And that's the last thing we want to do is shut people down.
Yeah.
Okay. And if we started having this conversation a few years ago, if you were in the position to be able to be receptive to it, the people that weren't will basically say, oh, these guys are crackpots. They're out of their rocker. Make sure you don't listen to Franco or Todd or anybody else because they're all idiots in a sense, because they're talking nonsense. That is still occurring at this point in time.
Yeah.
However, there are more and more people that are going to listen and actually, and I'm not saying that you take whatever we're saying, or I'm saying whatever it is, or anybody else is saying as gospel truth or anything like that. Let that resonance, like you were saying earlier, let it be the resonance in you, because that part of you is saying, yes, thank you for the confirmation. Yes, for triggering that memory I already have inside, because I know it, because everybody is source. Everybody is that advanced being.
Yeah.
We're just not having that advanced being experience while we're going through this. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. So
this is the reason.
I agree with you. Yeah, absolutely. That totally resonates. Well, I mean, if you think about it, what's the difference between the event and the second coming, or the Messiah, or whatever the story is? It's disempowering. I personally believe it's disempowering to tell people, and I've gone both ways on it. I thought, oh, well, that's cool. There's going to be an event. Thank God, this thing's almost over. No, as more time goes by, it's like you said, it's the school and the playground, mostly the playground. If you really crack the code, we're untouchable. We're untouchable. And to have that knowledge throwing in to the mix, the alchemy, the creativity, the creation aspect. Wow, that's the part that is exciting to me.
Yeah, and we could talk about this another time where we can actually see how much we are actually involved in all of the creation part of it, how we actually shape our reality, how we interact with each other's reality. We can look at all the differences of all the different role playings that has been taking place, how we actually, in fact, will never could be in a victim state in any way, shape, or form, even if you have a situation that surprises us and say, what the heck was that all about, right? We can look at how we're actually involved and why it's there and why it unfolds a certain way, and how we can actually reduce the amount of impact that it has to have, or increase the amount of impact, and how much consciously you're involved in that. And we can look at how we create, what laws are actually exist and don't exist. When I'm talking about laws of attraction, laws of anything, how it actually works and it doesn't work, we can explore a lot of those things, because there's a lot of misunderstanding. But at the same time, a lot of people are questioning and saying, well, does it really work that way? Well, at that time, that's probably what we needed, because in essence, that's all we were able to accept. But now we can go to the next level of it. Yeah. So there's a lot you can play with. You know.
And I love the part that you talk about with the owning it, the self-reliance, the self-responsibility, because at the end of the day, any energy that we're exerting because it is in judgment of others, or, I don't like them. Yeah. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is that we actually, myself, actually, I am everything. I have the power to change it all. But if I'm going to spend my time over here, fighting this philosophy or ideology or this, it's, I'm missing the boat. I'm missing the point. I'm the point. I'm the point.
Even when we get information that may be a distraction.
Yeah.
Okay. And you've had some coming through and so forth that kind of acts as a distraction. But what does it do? It fine-tunes you in a way, because you're now tuning in. Okay, that doesn't all resonate, but what does resonate? Yeah. And you basically fine-tunes you to be able to use your own discernment to actually become more powerful in your own creation, because it's more self-directed creation, and you become much more powerful in affecting others. In around you, because there are other aspects of you that are coming to you and say, okay, Todd, you're doing this beautiful work, whatever it is, you're sharing all this information. Some of the information may be totally accurate, some of it be a lot skewed, but at the same time, it's stimulating other possibilities, other viewpoints. Yeah. And it's also giving us the opportunity, oh yeah, that resonates. Well, that one doesn't resonate so much. Maybe that one is polarized and I'm not understanding it or whatever. So you see how all of that comes in. And we'll even talk about, some of the channeling of information that comes from our brother, sister souls, and what role they have. And, a lot of have idolized, beings and information that comes in from the being. You have to understand, a lot of these playmates that are there have not direct experience of the human experience, and they're giving their viewpoints from their experience level. So we have to always put our level of it and say, okay, how does it relate? What can we use? What is applicable here to our particular playground and our experience, right?
Absolutely. You have to check yourself. Well, I don't say you have to do anything. We don't have to do anything, but I'm finding to check myself on everything. Like any information that comes in, and I do. I get this information in. I mean, look what I'm doing for my mission or whatever, my role. And it's a constant flow of energy, multidimensional energy. I mean, I'm getting this voice, I'm getting another voice, and it's just a big presentation. And you're right. I wouldn't care if the entire planet had 30,000 spaceships land tomorrow. It doesn't mean I'm going to jump in one and say, take me home. I'm just not going to do it. I trust me. And I trust you. I trust those of us who are boots on the ground. I trust us. I mean, why else would we be waking up to what? Waking up to just the fact, oh, here's our story? No, I think we're actually waking up to, hey, what can we do with this? What can we do with this aligned, multidimensional bodies, and what magic can we create? I mean, this is in the physicality, which is mind blowing, absolutely mind blowing.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is too, like you said something very instrumental there in essence, because when I've talked to other beings and so forth, they always said, listen, the reason that we work with you guys directly, because you have a direct link, because you are the boots on the ground. They don't use those words. You are the link. You are the computer, sort of, that is directly connected to the different levels of collectiveness and so forth that is playing out. Because we could talk about the units of collectiveness at some point too. But in essence, we rely on you guys to actually be doing the changing. We can only stream certain information. And yes, we have our versions of what we can see, but you are the ones that are doing the groundwork. You're the ones that are there, right? Like my soul now over the years is 84 clustered souls, but they're not in my body. They tried, years ago, actually not even that long ago. In essence, no. You can stream what you want to stream, but everything has to be filtered and adjusted accordingly so that it actually relates to the human experience. Yeah. You're not going to be in the driver's seat of this physicality. And they attempted at that point, because a lot of them are not humanoid or have had human form or human experience, right? Yeah. Yeah. So you can share your info or intel, what your viewpoints are, but it has to be distilled to the point of how we can use it on this playground in these physicalities and these times of change.
Yeah, in the proper context.
Yes.
So, Franco, where do people find you? I know you have a couple of events coming up. I know you got a website. I don't know. Can you just kind of educate us on where to find you? And
the website is a great start. The website that you're going to see right away is the old website. The new one was supposed to be launched last Friday, but it ran into some some glitches. So in essence, my daughter's working on it now and fixing the glitches before it's launched. Now she says by the end of this week, it should be up again or be up. And the old one would just migrate to that. So what the website is a resource center for people to come in and actually, because what I share seems to go outside of all boxes, and I don't have polarities or anything of that nature, and I do it in that respect. So in essence, if they collect and join the community, which is basically going on the email, then you will be notified as upcoming events and so forth. And also as I do new postings, there are a lot more new YouTube YouTube videos that are going out. So you can connect with me on Facebook. You can connect with me with the website and also the YouTube stuff that I'll be putting out. I do have events coming up. There's 2 more events coming up that are already in place. One is June 22nd. That is a 1-day online workshop, which I do processes and also sharing. This one is about consciously creating and redesigning your life stream. Okay. I go through a lot of details, but we go through a lot of processes. Everything is done online. Is a nice little beautiful unit. It's very inexpensive. You can be live on the live stream. And then you could also, if you're on the live stream, you automatically get all the video and audio recordings and all broken up in sequences. And if you can't be online, then you will be able to also order just the recordings, the video and audio recordings. People find it amazingly powerful for them, and it's been hugely life-changing for them. And each month that I put out one is based on different themes to bring us to the next level of what is beneficial. In August the 28th to July 28th to August the 4th, we have a retreat coming up. It's actually a workshop in a retreat setting. It's 7 full days of immersion, okay? It is about, basically, the whole is to connect with yourself and to use your new levels of consciousness coming in and to connect with who you truly are. And the process allows you to kind of get rid of a lot of the programming that we have, a lot of the conditioning we have. We start reconnecting with ourselves. It is about also immersing in a higher level of consciousness. You'll get to discover yourself, because that's what it's about. It's intense 7-day self-discovery. And what we're talking about is discovering other aspects of ourselves. We're going to discover the beauty of our body. We're going to discover our soul, our higher self. We're going to discover how our human entity works, discover how we actually operate, how we think, how we feel, how we connect with one another, and really bringing that up to the surface much more, so that when you leave, you're actually navigating at a whole new level.
Yeah.
And whatever is playing around you, by the changes that you will experience, you'll notice your playground starts to shift, because in essence, the playground around us is really following our cue. It's following where our focus is, how we respond and feel in our programs, right?
That's right.
So when that changes, people say, well, what happened? How come people are changed around me? Well, it's because you changed.
Yeah, I used to do that. I used to do that to Morgan. Morgan's guided me a lot over the last 4 years. And I'd come out of a activation or a session or whatever, and the next day I'd say, God, the world looks different today. You're different. And she'd just laugh at me until one day I finally figured it out. It wasn't everyone else. It was me. I've really enjoyed this. This has been incredible. I didn't mean to run so long. I hope it's not a problem for you.
Well, it's not a problem for me. I usually know that your shows only go about an hour, so I'm sure we're way over that now. But
well, we're about 1 hour and 40. I've done some that are a couple hours, but I usually try to address that beforehand, just so out of respect. But yeah. But I mean, sometimes when the flow's like this, absolutely, and I can tell because I can see the energy of the crowd. So yeah. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Franco. I look forward to future collaborations. Thank you for the information. You guys, this is the year of collaboration, co-creation, sovereignty, expansion. Let's support those who resonate with us. Let's participate in creating a new field of exchange, equal energy exchange, and make the realities occur that we all want from our heart. So that means visit Franco, visit his website, consider what he's got to offer, and take the plunge. I think it sounds like a great program. I'm going to find out more about it too.
Yeah, and I think you put it onto the description, the links that take you, and it gives you a full explanation of what you get. I make all of my events very cost effective, so it does not, exclude people. I'm not doing this for the money. I do this to help people. Of course, we are also in a situation, or not a situation, but we're in the playground where money is still an issue. Part of a tool that we're using. So in essence, it's just kind of the support going on. It's not about get rich scheme or selling anybody anything, because that's not the way I work. I've never worked that way. So I provide a lot of things are absolutely free. And then there's other things that we charge because of, the cost involved to do it and to support ourselves. So it's all there. And it's really about, when people ask me, well, what do you do this for? Because I've come here to serve, to assist, to facilitate, and so forth. I don't do it for me. I know the stuff already, but I do it for you, for everybody. I'm not when I say you, everybody else listening. The one last thing I could say is that this, what we just did in the last hour and 40 minutes or so, is very intensive, energetic-wise and also conscious-wise. So in essence, I would recommend people to listen to it several times over a period of time. It actually stimulates your own self, emerging. That essence of you coming up to the surface, and it becomes more powerful for you, and your navigation starts to change. So I would strongly recommend for people to listen to this. This is not a one-time thing,
Great advice. Great conversation on a very powerful day. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I look forward. Morgan and I will, or Morgan will reach out to you. We'll reach out to you and see if we can collaborate again in the near future.
Yeah, one time I would like to meet her online anyways, because I have, I've known her for a while, but I've never seen her. So,
well, and another thing too is if you have anything you want to put out or you want to expand awareness on, like such as these events, just feel free to message me or Morgan, and we'll run it through the network. We've got a pretty good active network. So if you want to expand the awareness of it, we're there to serve you. Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
All right, we'll be back in 19 minutes with somebody. I can't remember who it is, but we'll be back. See you later.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.